Hey. What's up, everybody? Just want to make sure. First off, welcome in. Oh, hold on. There we go. All right, here we go. Welcome in to the Sacktown Sports Kings recap for the season opener of the 2024-25 NBA season for your Sacramento Kings, and it ends. I don't think how anybody wanted it to. It was looking good for a minute there, especially in the third quarter, but honestly, this game really flipped with a late third quarter 11-0 run to end the third quarter going into the fourth. Minnesota took the lead in the final minute of that third quarter, and they never really looked back. And that's really the story of this one. A hard-fought fourth quarter, but ultimately the Kings fall short in their first game, and I think it really did look like the Kings' first game of the season for a lot of this one. In that first quarter, just to start things off, I mean, it didn't look sloppy, but it didn't look good. I'm not going to say that it was, looked like summer league basketball or anything like that, but you could see that there's some adjusting going on, a lot of passes going out of bounds, expecting a guy to be in a spot and he continues to run or kind of cuts a little shorter than you would have anticipated. Just a lot of growing pains in that first quarter, but for the Kings to still be up, still looking like the stronger team, I think, in that first half, I think was a really good sign. The Timberwolves obviously already had a game. They get the luxury of kind of already getting the cobwebs dusted off a little bit in that Laker game on Tuesday. And to be fair to the Kings, I would say I don't really think that you would have guessed that if you looked at Minnesota, especially in that first half. I think that the Kings did a good job of kind of continuing to make Minnesota fight for it. It was a pretty relatively low-scoring first half, if I'm not mistaken, especially for Minnesota. But yeah, I mean, this last year in Minnesota was the best defense in the NBA, and obviously they make a big trade this offseason, bringing in Julius Randle for Karl Anthony Towns, also bring in former King Dante DiVincenzo. But, I think the Kings in that first half, really, with the exception of slowing down Julius Randle, I thought they did a great job. I put it out on my Twitter, but 34% for non-Julius Randle players on the Wolves in that first half. He was just holding them up, honestly, for a lot of this game. He was hitting threes. He was getting into the post, playing a little bit of bully ball. But it did feel a little bit like Julius just couldn't miss tonight. And I don't know how much you could really do about that. I mean, if a guy's got it rolling like that, obviously you can try and send double teams. But really, I mean, the way that Julius was hitting it, when he's hitting that perimeter shot, I mean, sometimes all you can do is throw your hands up and say, I guess it's going to be his day. And I think the Kings did a decent job, at least for, 2.5 quarters of keeping it to pretty much just the Julius Randle show. But that wasn't going to be the case for the entirety of the game. You knew Anthony Edwards was going to put his stamp on this one. Again, a pretty inefficient night for Ant. He was pretty inefficient in that Laker game, and they fall short. But tonight, he was exactly what they needed down the stretch. They really, really lack any sort of creation outside of Anthony Edwards in that lineup, and they really rely on him pretty heavily to create for just about everybody. And I thought, it takes a certain kind of guy to, just kind of block out all the missed shots and everything like that and continue to attack. I thought Ant settled for his three quite a bit today. I think that was probably in the Kings' game plan to allow him to shoot. He shoots 33%, 5 of 15 from three-point land tonight. I think you live with that. You live with a lot of the shots. It felt like he was settling. And anytime, as you saw in that last play where Ant gets fouled, anytime you can have him not driving the lane and kind of forcing you into a decision like Domas had to make in that last second there, where you either allow him to finish at the rim or you give him some contact and hope that you can make it a tough finish and just kind of hope they don't call the foul there. I think that you settle, you live with Anthony Edwards taking 15 of his 24 shots from beyond the arc. So I think that was a good defensive game plan for Ant. And Rudy Gobert, too. I mean, he's not really obviously known for his offense, but to hold him to 3 points and pretty much until he hit that, split those free throws at the end there was pretty much a non-factor. He only took 2 shots. Obviously, some of that's because Julius Randle really had it going, but I think the fact that they held them Really, if you look at this game, I mean, Nasri definitely ended up putting his stamp on the game as well in that second half. But this was a three-man effort from the Timberwolves tonight, and they again, I feel like if Julius Randle just doesn't have I would call it a career night, but I was sitting next to our guy Frankie Cardicelli, and he was telling me Julius, I think, had a 46-point game against the Kings at some point in his career. So he clearly just likes playing in Golden One Center. We know Anthony Edwards in the past has said he enjoys the Golden One Center nets or the rims or the depth perception that the backboard creates. Something about it, man. It's something that we've seen throughout the years is that teams will come in here and just shoot the lights out of nowhere. It doesn't matter if you're the worst three-point shooting team in the league. Somehow you come into Golden One Center and all of a sudden you end up looking like the Celtics hitting 29 threes in their first game. So I don't really know how to explain it. I don't know if that's going to change. I don't know how much I want to put on the Kings defensively on the perimeter, allowing some of that stuff to happen. I will say it did seem like tonight they were very comfortable with Minnesota taking a lot of corner threes. I have the shot chart here next to me. Minnesota 3 of 10 from the right corner from three. I think that's probably I'm kind of fascinated to hear if anyone asked that in the post game because those are the shortest distance threes, and a lot of the time those are the threes that a lot of offenses kill for. They love to have those wide open corner looks. Minnesota in total was 6 of 16 from the corners today. I think they would probably look back and wish that they hit some of those. So I guess sometimes things have a weird way of evening themselves out. I guess you could say, Julius might not typically, what did he finish? Julius was 5 of 6 from three. So maybe you take 1 or 2 of those away from Julius Randle, you just add it to the corner. Again, it kind of has a weird way of evening out. But for Minnesota to take that many shots, that was, they got most of their looks in the open corners. They just didn't hit them tonight. I thought that that was an interesting game plan, and I don't know whether to feel like that's what the Kings were wanting for some reason, or, like a lot of those times, why would you want the corner three? Well, sometimes, or most of the time, it was Nickeil Alexander-Walker taking it. Who else took a couple of those? It was usually Jaden McDaniels would take a couple. It was usually one of their worst shooters, honestly, that's on the floor. Mike Conley tonight, 2 of 7 from three. So, I feel like we've covered the Timberwolves good enough. I thought they did a good job of just continuing to fight in this one. I mean, they were down as much as I think 11. And, again, that run, the Kings were up by as much as 12. So I think that, again, that run at the end of the third quarter, that was a lot of Anthony Edwards and a lot of Julius Randle. I really think that was pretty much the end for the Kings. Not that they couldn't have came back, but if you don't allow them to kind of get a little bit of life at the end of the third quarter, I think you could have opened up that fourth and been able to put them away. But actually, speaking of the start of that fourth quarter, man, oh man, that's, again, where it felt like the Kings lost this game. If it wasn't for that end of third quarter, it might have been the start of the fourth that kind of doomed them. They just went completely quiet. DeMar DeRozan was, frankly, out of control for a lot of the start of that fourth quarter. I marked it down. He was 1 of 4 in the first 6 minutes of that fourth quarter. And then, obviously, towards the end, took a couple tough looks, which I think is why he's here. I think that's a big reason why the Kings wanted to add him to this team is he's a tough shot maker. You saw him look for that mid-range shot a couple times. He hit a couple of them, but we also see some turnarounds that didn't fall. And I think that's the good and the bad. You saw him take it to the rim against Jaden McDaniels, and he got completely stuffed at the rim. Again, I think that Minnesota, some of it is that there's not a lot of teams like Minnesota that have a Rudy Gobert and Anthony Edwards, a Jaden McDaniels that can slow those kind of rim attacks down, or just even those DeMar pull-ups. It takes a certain level of defender to slow that guy down, but it definitely felt like DeMar might have been pushing the issue a little bit, which frankly I'm okay with, because I think that there's some fear, especially with De'Aaron being such a big presence for this team in the past in the fourth quarter, especially in clutch moments, that there was going to be a little bit of a hot potato situation going on between the two of them. It was very clear tonight. There was no hot potato. There was no questions. It was DeMar DeRozan's ball for a lot of the end of that game. Of course, I guess it would be the second to last shot that the Kings take, a 2-for-1 deep two from De'Aaron Fox. I didn't have a huge issue with it. He was wide open to midi. We know that he's got that kind of range. It just doesn't go down. I mean, again, I think some nights those go down, sometimes they don't. You'd like to think maybe when you're in the flow of the season and you've gotten your 10,000 shots up for the year already, those go in. But first game of the year, I think it's just unfortunate that it doesn't fall. It was a great night, great atmosphere here at Golden One Center, of course. Once the game got close, everybody was on their feet, incredibly loud. I think DeMar understands the type of fan base that he's going to be playing in front of this season. And, how could you not just, if you were in the building tonight, it's definitely not the results you want, but I think you have to feel positively about just how this Kings team played overall and the fight that they showed. And again, to be in this game, I know it sucks to lose, but at least the Timberwolves are one of the better teams in this league. Even if they're not as good as they were last year, I think the Timberwolves are very quality opponents. And the fact that, again, they already played a game, I think that has to be factored in a little bit here, as again they just aren't. They've already knocked off a lot of the rust. So I think that needs to be factored in. It's not an excuse for them losing tonight, but I definitely think it plays a factor into it. Looking at the box score here too, some things that just absolutely stick out. DeMar DeRozan 42 minutes, 42 and a half minutes, 42 minutes 32 seconds, and Keegan Murray 43 minutes. The glaring minutes for me today were the Doug McDermott, Alex Len. It was more so the Doug McDermott random 5 minutes, 30 seconds that we saw to start the fourth quarter. I have no idea what that was about. If I had to guess, it has to do with the fact Keegan Murray played 43 minutes, and those seem to be the only 5 minutes that Keegan wasn't out there. But also Trey Lyles, obviously coming off of his groin injury. He plays 10 minutes tonight. Kevin Huerter plays just under 20. If I had to guess, both of those guys were probably on some form of a minutes restriction. So that's probably why you didn't see a lot of them down the stretch, besides the fact that really neither of them had a very big game. Kevin Huerter today, in his really first return to 5-on-5 action. Kevin hasn't played a single preseason game. I don't know how much of training camp he was really involved with, but the fact that he gets announced, him and Trey get announced yesterday that they're going to be available today, knocking off some rust. It was always going to be natural. It kind of felt like Kevin had some opportunities to take some shots and might have been a little bit shy in taking them. He finishes 1 of 4 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3. I kind of wonder if not that Keon had a big game today, but Keon's just been playing. He's been in preseason action. He's in the flow of it. He had all summer, I'm sure, where he's thinking he's going to get that spot. I get that it might be a bigger picture thing, and maybe Mike just feels like, hey, at the end of the day, our best lineup, our starting lineup is going to be with Kevin Huerter in it. But I don't know. I just feel like maybe on the first night of the season, again, knowing that Kevin Huerter hasn't gotten any game action in so long, might have been in hindsight, being 2020, might have been a good spot to put in Keon Ellis into that starting lineup, just for the comfort, familiarity, and the fact that he's at least gotten some run here. On the flip side of those guys, on the flip side of Kevin Huerter, Trey Lyles making their return tonight and just not really feeling much of their presence, we knew you couldn't hold this man Malik Monk down. His first game action, obviously he played some in the preseason, but his first regular season action since going down in that Dallas game right here in Golden One Center last season. Malik comes out tonight 6 of 9. I think he hit his first 4 shots from the field. One of them was a 3. Came out electric, came out like the guy that we all knew he is. New contract, same Malik. And besides the missed free throw, I mean, it was a pretty great game from Malik. 4 assists today as well. We know that's a big part of his game. No turnovers from Malik. I can't really think of many times offensively where it felt like Malik made a big blunder. I think defensively it's a little bit tough, but he just brings so much on the offensive end that you kind of let everything else slip, and the energy he brings, you can just feel immediately, especially with this crowd. I mean, when he came in and he just comes and hits 2 shots right off the bat, I mean, so much energy he just brings immediately, and it's really what this Kings bench needed today. As I'm looking at it, Malik Monk, these are their bench stats. Malik 17 points, Keon Ellis 2 points, Trey Lyles 3 points, Alex Len 3 points. Doug McDermott had a 0-point outing in his 5 minutes. So if you add up the non-Malik Monk bench points, you come up to a whopping 8. So that might be some of why maybe Kevin Huerter might end up on the bench some point. Not for Malik Monk, but maybe just to add a little bit of scoring to that bench unit as well. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be kind of fluid, more so that not game to game, but if I had to imagine, like, Kevin Huerter's not getting the longest leash here, I would think it's probably, I would hope, like 10 games in, you can maybe reevaluate if you feel like Kevin Huerter just isn't giving it to you. But man, yeah, definitely feels like this one was pretty gettable for the Kings tonight, and maybe if they shoot a little bit better from the perimeter, maybe if they don't miss some of those free throws, this game goes a little bit differently. And the free throws is where I want to take our next little detour here. Man, I don't really know where I want to go with it in terms of they were better than they were last year. Last season, 74%. Worst free throw shooting team in the NBA last year, this Kings team was. Positive side, they shot 80%, so they're shooting better. They're shooting about, that's probably slightly above league average. So 80% from the line is great. DeMar missed 2 of them early. Malik missed 1. Sabonis missed 3 free throws. And that one's a little bit expected, but you know, it would just be nice. It would just be nice to not have to deal with those kind of things. I think 35 free throw attempts is really great to see. Yeah, you know, I think that not really. Not really.
Oh yeah, the light.
Yeah, 35 free throw attempts I think is a great number for them to be at. That's crazy high. Literally pretty much doubled Minnesota's free throw attempts. And DeMar DeRozan takes 14 of them. I mean, that's why you bring him in here, is to raise that free throw percentage from where it was last year. It's kind of tough when you're going to bring back the same personnel to just say, hey, can you shoot better from the line? A guy like DeMar, who gets to the line a ton, adds to your total, is probably going to be your biggest free throw attempt taker. Also is a great free throw shooter. Shoots it well above 80% from the line. So I think on most nights, 12 of 14, looking at it at the end of the night, looks great. But those 2 misses, it just, I know they happened early. It just kind of felt like you heard everybody in the arena start to look around and be like, we're going to do this again. Okay. Oh, it's contagious. Great. We ruined a guy who's been in the NBA for 16 years and been a great free throw shooter. And now he comes here to Sacramento and all of a sudden forgets how to shoot free throws. So, yeah, that was a little scary for a second there, but end up 12-14 I think is a positive, and I think that's probably what we should come to expect most nights. You all saw tonight just how crafty he is around the rim. People, as much as they all know not to bite on his pump fake, they just can't help themselves. You saw Naz Reid on the baseline down there towards the end of the game play a little bit too close to DeMar. That happens a ton too. People try and crowd his space and make him uncomfortable because they know he's such a tough shot maker. It doesn't matter. I mean, he's either going to continue to hit the shot and maybe get an and one, but you're probably going to foul him just because he knows and he's so crafty at getting to his stuff. So, you know, I felt like DeMar towards the end of the game maybe started to skew how I would feel overall about his performance tonight. But I think overall, you look at the numbers, 26 points, 8 boards. He only had 2 assists, which I kind of hope is something that goes up as the season goes on. He gets more familiar with his teammates. They can start to figure out where they can find some weak spots in defenses. I hope that assist number goes up for DeMar, but love to see him involved on the glass. Keegan Murray, speaking of getting involved on the glass, 11 boards for Keegan tonight, 23 and 11. Huge night for him, as this is just in general a huge season for Keegan. As we are mentioning Keegan as well, second most shot attempts on the team I think is huge. A lot of people had a lot of concerns about Keegan Murray kind of falling by the wayside this season with DeMar being added. And obviously DeMar is such a big offensive presence. You know that De'Aaron's got to get some shots up. You know Malik's got to get some shots up. Sabonis isn't going to average 10 points a game, so he's got to get some shots up. And so naturally, I think a lot of people had questions of, is Keegan Murray, who's kind of a passive guy, is he going to step up and frankly be willing to take those shots and maybe call some guys off and say, no, like I got this, I'm feeling this, or I'm open and I like this mismatch. And Keegan did 17 shots tonight. You saw a nice array of them as well. He had some at the rim. He took some middies. He took some off the dribble. He took a couple ISOs. I really liked what I saw just from Keegan in whole, and I think, it kind of felt like Keegan's shot. Nobody's shot was really falling tonight from the Kings side of things besides Malik, who got it going. Keegan later in the game kind of got it going from the perimeter, but no one really felt like they were in a flow. And I think that's going to happen at the start of the season when these guys are just kind of still getting into game shape and figuring each other out. But overall, I think the guys that the Kings wanted to play well on their side definitely played well in DeMar, De'Aaron, Domas, and Malik for sure. And you can throw Keegan in there as well, of course. Let's see here. He had 3 guys finish over 20 points. DeRozan 26, Keegan 23, Sabonis 24. You technically had 5 guys finish over 15 if you had De'Aaron and Malik into the mix. I think the offense was there. I kind of think that that little quiet period at the start of the fourth quarter is kind of what ended up dooming them, along with that pretty rough end to the third quarter there. Okay, let's see here. Just checking my notes. Is there anything else interesting here? I will say in the first half, let me see what they ended. In the first half, a very interesting note that I saw is the Kings took 12 mid-range jumpers. Wow. And then in the second half took 1. So they took 12 mid-range jumpers in that first half. What did they knock it down at? Oh, that's just a bonus. They took 9 in the second half. First half, they were 5 of 12, which is okay, but 30% of their shots coming from the mid-range. That is a DeMar DeRozan specialty right there. DeMar took 5 of them, it looks like. De'Aaron only took 1, so if I had to guess, Keegan took a couple. Keegan took 4 of them. So it was a lot of Keegan Murray and a lot of DeMar from the mid-range. That's going to be interesting to see this year. Monty McNair, the GM of this Kings team, comes from the Houston Rockets organization, which kind of famously made the layup or three-point, 2 true outcomes in basketball pretty popularized. I'm not sure how they feel about mid-range jumpers. I know, obviously, they'll mention the KDs and the Kawhis of the world, and when push comes to shove in playoff games or just in tight games in general, you're going to need people to hit mid-range jumpers because those are just tough shots, and a lot of the time, because people are so cognizant of, hey, they're trying to get a layup or a 3, a lot of the times if you stop and pull up for those mid-range jumpers, you're going to have a pretty decent look. So I think it's definitely just noteworthy that the Kings took 12 middies in that first half. I wonder if that's going to be something that they honestly look to maybe zig, where people are, or I guess zag, where some people are going, and or if they're going to eventually try and squeeze some of that out, turn some of those mid-range jump shots into 3s, just because the points per possession makes so much more sense from beyond the arc. It's going to be interesting just how this team continues to develop. But I do think that the even scoring is something that we're going to see a lot of this season. Is just a lot of big performances from the guys that we come to expect this year. So, I think if we're giving it a grade, you obviously want the result. So it's tough to give you an A, which I probably wouldn't have anyways. Tough to get an A if you don't win. I think it was probably a B minus. I'll give it a B. B performance. It's opening night. Again, a lot of rust being worn off. You add a big piece in DeMar. I think it was a very, very winnable game for them. You have one stretch where you allow 11 straight, and then on the other side of things to start the fourth quarter, you start ice cold. You're kind of making it real tough for yourself. So good on them for holding it at the end. Didn't let Minnesota completely run away with it at all. Definitely made it an entertaining game for an opening night. And, again, I think they're going to work out a lot of the things that you might be concerned about. But let me look over to the comments now and See what y'all got going. Let's see here. Manny, I agree. Honestly, a pretty good game, just tough loss though. Agreed. That's pretty much how I feel overall. Is that the performance was solid, result wasn't there at the end of the day. Free throws got to be better. Also took a difficult 2-pointer that could have been drawn better. Also took a lot of difficult twos. Yeah, I think that's DeMar's game, honestly. I wonder how much of that is just going to be some days he's going to make it, some days he's going to miss it, and he's going to take tough jumpers, and that's just what he does. That is, I think that might just be something that we say all season long, just maybe some head-scratching shots, but some days they'll go in. Is our season over? Possibly 0-82 on the way. It could happen. I think we can call it after that one. Let's see here. Manny says the Wolves shot way more threes than us. They sure did. That's a good point. Something I didn't point out at all. Didn't really notice. Wolves shot 50 3-point attempts. Again, I wonder how much of that is how the Kings defense is structured versus maybe it's just a Minnesota initiative. They did not shoot and did not shoot well in that Laker game on Tuesday. Would I say they have shooters? I mean, let's see. The guys who took them, Julius Randle, 5 of 6. He's not usually taking 6 shots. He's definitely not usually making 3 of them. Ant taking 15 threes is way too much. I think even they would tell you that. Conley was 7. Yeah, I mean, they were to an extent just kind of chucking them up. Conley, 2 of 7. DiVincenzo, 1 of 6. Ant, 5 of 15. McDaniels, 0 of 4. They did end up shooting 40% on the nose from 3, but a lot of that is Julius Randle going 5 of 6, Naz Reid going 4 of 7. So, I on one side, I think that Minnesota was kind of chucking it a bit, which is also a little bit of today's NBA. And, it's something we'll definitely have to monitor because that's been a problem for this Kings team in the past. So it's not something that's just coming out of nowhere. Yeah, exactly. And there it is. Darren completely on point. Kings 3-point D, same as it ever was. Absolutely, yeah. It's not really anything new. Yeah. Julius Randle killed him. That's pretty much, that pretty much ends the game. Like, Julius having that kind of night, that's the difference between a win and a loss. And, again, I don't know how much you could have even controlled because I will say Julius did have a couple really open looks that he probably just shouldn't get, but they had a lot of open looks, Minnesota did, and they missed a ton of them. So, tip your hat to Julius. I really don't think he does this on most nights, but, man, that was some performance by him. That was some performance by him, man. And I'm not going to overreact. I'm not a Julius Randle guy at all. At all. This is what he does, honestly. Offensively, he's kind of like Buddy Hield. He's a big Buddy Hield in my eyes. He can put it up for sure offensively, but that's not really the problem. It's defensively. He gets attacked. He gets really frustrated when things aren't going his way, and he can really be a big liability, again, more so when things aren't going their way. No, I don't think Fox lost his clutch skills. I do think that he just kind of deferred to DeMar today. That's maybe the one thing, as I mentioned when we were talking about Keegan, a lot of people concerned Keegan was going to have to take a step back. I would say De'Aaron kind of took a step back today, just from an aggressiveness standpoint. And I wonder how Mike Brown feels about that, and I wonder how De'Aaron feels about that, because I do feel like at the end of the day, yes, we brought DeMar here to bring this team something that they didn't have, but that shouldn't be at the expense of De'Aaron Fox being that guy. Again, still doesn't feel like De'Aaron's attacking the rim enough. I didn't feel like he settled for as many threes as what he normally does. 1 of 4 today. I didn't love a couple of his threes, but I think he's still developing that part of his game. And at least it's not 15. And some of those games at the end of last year, he was the one who was 5 of 15 from 3, looking like Anthony Edwards tonight. So, I think that's just something that's going to continue to develop with De'Aaron's game. But I think in an ideal world, they're going to want De'Aaron Fox to be a little bit more aggressive on the offensive end. And, I know he did bang knees. I took note of that. He banged knees with, I believe it was Dante DiVincenzo at the 7:49 mark, which again also might have, he also got subbed out right after that. That might have had a little bit to do with why De'Aaron really didn't take many shots down the stretch, and you saw DeMar kind of take the reins a little bit towards the end. I wonder if it was that. We've also noticed De'Aaron Fox has been grasping his left hand on occasion. Something to monitor for sure. We just saw, I don't want to throw this out there, but, just DeJounte Murray just fractured his hand in game 1. I don't think De'Aaron did. Definitely don't want to put that out there, but something is not right with his left hand. We saw it in preseason, him shake it, and then today he had a moment where I can't remember exactly when it happened, but I'm pretty confident it was the fourth quarter, and you see De'Aaron go to the bench, and he's just kind of grabbing his wrist. He's stretching it out a little bit. He's curling it. You could just tell that something wasn't right. So I just kind of wonder how 100% healthy De'Aaron is to start the season, and if maybe we'll tape it up. Maybe he might have to miss a couple games just to let it heal. But it's something I definitely noticed. Let's see here. I agree, Shortcake. I definitely think McDermott played just a little bit too long in that fourth quarter. And he just didn't really bring anything. I know they tried to run him on some Kevin Huerter actions. Maybe it was Kevin Huerter, Keegan Murray actions, I'll say. The little, curl from the corner or the wing to the top of the key. Just had him pull straight off the rip. He missed the 3. That was the only shot he took. It just wasn't super impactful. And if he's not hitting shots, Doug McDermott really isn't bringing much to your team, frankly. I mean, that's what he's out there to do. 2 fouls in 5 minutes, -3. I agree. I think he played too much. I think, again, that it was only because Trey Lyles is coming back from an injury. It just felt so random. I mean, he did not play at all the first 3 quarters, and then he starts the fourth quarter in the game. We were trying to figure it out on Media Row. The best answer we could come up with is, maybe sometimes you put somebody in that fourth quarter who hasn't gotten in, and you just hope maybe this person can provide us a spark. They haven't been in all game. They're fresh while everybody is pretty tired. Doug's a crazy shooter, crazy movement shooter. If you can get Doug McDermott to hit 1 or 2 threes, that can change the momentum of the game completely. So I think that's the reason why. Again, I probably wouldn't have done that if I were the coach, but, I don't know if I would necessarily say it's a bad decision by Mike Brown, because I do really think that it was mainly because Trey and Kevin were on I don't even know if it's a minutes restriction, but just monitoring their minutes because they just came back. And there's our first Fire Mike Brown of the season. Congratulations. Let's see here. For what it's worth, also I see 3-pointers could be a big problem for this team. Absolutely. They shot 25% in preseason. Today they shoot 37 for what it's worth. Only took 29 threes, made 11 of them. I think ideally you would like to be more. Minnesota hit 20, so what is that? Quick math. 18-point advantage from 3. The Kings had to make that up at the free throw line, where they hit 13 more shots, free throw attempts. So they're making up some of it there. And I mean, you could maybe argue that that's your ball game right there. Honestly, is again, the Kings missing a couple free throws, and maybe hitting a couple more threes, and this game completely is flipped. Bench is a problem. That definitely is maybe a thing for sure. Again, only 8 points from non-Malik Monk bench players today. Not really much offensive creation from the bench besides Malik Monk either. Maybe Jordan McLaughlin ends up getting some minutes so he could, get some threes out there. Maybe he can create for some guys. I will say, just in general, Jordan McLaughlin was a lot shorter than I thought he was going to be when I saw him today in pregame warmups. Do with that information what you will. But I was pretty surprised to see McLaughlin not get minutes. Frankie and Brendan both said that they have kind of been thinking that was the direction Mike was going to start to go. But, I think everyone kind of assumed that Jordan McLaughlin was going to be in the rotation from day one, but clearly isn't. And I wonder if he's somebody who maybe gets thrown in there in game two. How much of this is still Mike Brown trying to get a pulse for his team. He said that in the preseason. It kind of flew under my radar. I didn't see many people talk about it or circulate the quote, but I was told, and I have since listened to the audio, Mike Brown, both on Wednesday and on Tuesday, made comments about how, I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially this is the worst feel for a roster that he can remember having in his career. And not because he doesn't fully understand his players, but more so from an injury front of Kevin Huerter, Trey Lyles, Jordan McLaughlin didn't play the first preseason game. He still hasn't seen Orlando Robinson. Devin Carter's not coming back till mid-January, maybe February, maybe not at all this season if you believe some people. I think Devin Carter, for what it's worth, is going to come back in mid-January. But he essentially says, I haven't really seen these groups of guys play together. I haven't seen a lot of these two-man combinations, three-man combinations, all this kind of stuff. So that was a bit concerning for me. But I also will take that as these first couple games we might see some interesting lineups and some interesting decisions made. So we'll see. We'll see if we feel like Mike Brown gets a better feel for his team, because it did feel a little bit, especially with those Doug 5 minutes, maybe not the best button to push in that moment. Let's see here. A lot of people saying De'Aaron Fox too passive, too laid back. Interesting for sure. I do not disagree with you at all. But I think somebody's got to sacrifice. That's the thing. I think on any given night, every given night, maybe even, somebody's going to have to sacrifice. And, it's a 5-shot difference between De'Aaron and DeMar. I just kind of feel like that's what it's going to be. Somebody's going to have to take 14 shots, and somebody's going to be taking 18 to 20. I just think every night, Malik was able to get his tonight. Maybe some nights he's not going to be able to get his. Kevin Huerter only took 4 shots. Some nights where Kevin needs to take 6 or 7 shots, maybe even 10. I think every night somebody's going to have to be a little passive or might have to, kind of get forgotten about. And tonight, I don't even think that was De'Aaron, but I think relatively De'Aaron definitely, he ends up with 15 points. I think we're all used to De'Aaron Fox being in the mid to high 20s. Let's see here. Keegan did have a solid game. A lot of shouts out to Keegan here. The Kings are out of sync. Let's see. Wrong sync there. Let's see here. Interesting. We all just need to curb expectations, but this is better than no hopes of getting to the playoffs. Sure. What are my thoughts at Keegan's shot in the end? Should it have been someone else inbounding the ball other than DeMar, or was it a good look from Keegan? Yeah, that's interesting. So the last play of the game, let me see if anybody's reposted it so I can maybe do a little video breakdown if we could. Also, De'Aaron Fox wore some new shoes today, which I thought was interesting. Wore some like baby blues with orange, like an orange strap. Wasn't my favorite colorway, but yeah. We'll see. De'Aaron's new shoe, I think, is coming out in November as well. I think it's mid-November, I want to say, the first colorway that's going to be dropped. So look out for that. Let's see here. I don't see anybody posting video of Keegan's last shot. But anyways, my thoughts on it. I don't hate DeMar inbounding it. DeMar is a really good passer. He's 6'6", 6'7", so you don't really have to worry about, he's got to pass it. If Rudy Gobert is defending that inbounds and you have Malik Monk inbounding the ball, might be a little tough for Malik to get that pass over him. So it makes sense to have DeMar. Also, they always say this, the most dangerous man on an inbounds play is the inbounder. So, again, DeMar being there does make sense. If they would have forgotten about him, I trust nobody more than DeMar to hit a tough potential game-tying shot, maybe even a game-winning shot. He's made a ton of them, hit a ton of them. Should the look have gone to Keegan? Probably not. I think in an ideal world, De'Aaron Fox takes that shot. I think in an ideal world, DeMar DeRozan takes that shot. But Keegan was wide open. He now, granted, he was about 28, 30 feet away from the rim, so I understand why he hit the pump fake. He also got the defender to fly by, but you weren't going to get – once you pump faked, you were not going to get an open look. That's the other thing. Ends up hitting front rim, double clutches. It was going to be a tough shot always. It wasn't a great play design. Again, I'm trying to play it back in my mind right now, so I don't have the exact movement of everybody, but DeMar definitely got that pass off with about 4 seconds into the 5-second inbound count. So it was a good look, especially with that being considered, that, clock was running out. Usually that means everybody's covered. You find an open Keegan Murray for a shot. It was just too deep. I mean, really, I totally understand why Keegan wasn't super comfortable taking a 30-footer for game. He hit front rim. It's unfortunate it doesn't go in. That's why you don't put yourself in that situation. Wasn't the best play design, wasn't the best shot you could ever get, but at the end of the day, it was a shot that he could put up, and it hit front rim. So it's something that you at least have a chance of it going in. But yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't ideal. Let's see here. This is interesting, more so that I just don't know how I feel about it. Whoever has the ball on the Kings doesn't look committed. Too many extra passes that go for turnovers or bad shots. Wolves look aggressive and confident each possession. I don't really have a problem with too many extra passes. To me, I feel like it's a bigger problem if you have the opposite. If you have guys that aren't making the extra pass and taking unnecessarily tough jumpers, I can deal with a team being too selfless and then scaling it back than a team being selfish and having to teach them essentially how to do something fundamental like make the extra pass. Let's see here. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, I mean, definitely double clutch 3 for game is not ideal. But again, it was either that or 30-footer. And again, yeah, I think maybe there is a world and where that is the shot that Keegan should take. I mean, I'm not gonna necessarily argue that you shouldn't do it. If you're open and you have a game-winning opportunity, you should probably just let it fly and live with the results. At least you're open. But, he pump faked it, which I, again, in general, feel like that's not a bad move. But once he did pump fake it, especially with the time considered, somebody was going to be right there to contest, and somebody was there to contest, but Keegan got a fair enough look at the rim. And, that's definitely not what you draw up. But considering that wasn't what you drew up, I do think that's a fine look. I think it's fine. It's not ideal. If it goes in, everybody goes crazy and calls it lucky, but, don't put yourself in those situations.
Mike said Keegan was open, DeMar just passed it late.
Brendan's telling me that Mike Brown in his post-game press conference said Keegan was open and DeMar just passed it late. So there you go. Again, I don't know if that's necessarily what the play design was for to go to Keegan, but Keegan definitely was open for a minute there. Let's see here. I'm seeing. All right, yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'm just trying to see if anybody posted the last couple minutes. Let's see here. Let's see if I can pick some audio here on the way out. We will play. Here we go. Let's play. This is from our guy Matt George. Let's play a little bit of Domantas Sabonis here, talking about how the Kings should have put them away. Oh, lights are going down. How the Kings should have put the Wolves away in the third quarter. Here we go. Oops, sorry. Hold on. Let's.
You guys went kind of cold there too. Looks like shots weren't falling. They stormed back the way they did. Is that hard for this team to have lulls like that offensively?
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, we were up by 11, and I don't know, they made 2 threes back to back or something like that. You know, so it's ball game. They're all excited. You know, and now it's back to square one.
Domas, going back to the third quarter, you said put them away. What in your mind does that look like? Is it scoring more baskets? What is it?
Just either keep that little 10-point deficit, you know, around there, you know, or keep playing hard, you know, and not just let it disappear in 3-4 offenses.
There you go. That is Domantas Sabonis on, again, that third quarter really being the moment where I think things changed. If they just, and really it's kind of as simple as if they don't allow the 11-0 run, it feels like that game is just a lot more easily in the Kings' hands. And then the slow start to that fourth quarter kind of doomed them. So when you compound those two things, it was really like, I mean, it was probably about 8 consecutive bad minutes for the Kings, and you know, in a 48-minute game, that'll do it. That'll kill you. So, got to tighten it up. It's only game 1, but again, I guess I am using it as an excuse now, as I've said it a couple different times. But Minnesota's already played a game. They've already had an opportunity to kind of knock off some of the rust. But I think that for game 1 against a really quality opponent, I'm taking it. Here's DeMar DeRozan talking about this team and his first impressions playing with the guys.
How dynamic this team is incredible. You know, I got the utmost confidence in this group of guys. You know, once we get a rhythm, a feel, and we gonna continue to get better with it every single day. But you know, this team is extremely dynamic. What we able to do on both ends, and you know, like I said, once that rhythm comes, it's definitely gonna be scary.
There you go. There's DeMar saying essentially, with time, this thing will get better, and that's what I believe. And we'll see. I mean, we're here, ladies and gentlemen. We are in the season. The Kings don't have time to feel bad for themselves, as they will play again on Saturday against their bitter, hated rivals, the Los Angeles Lakers. And that will always be a good one. We know the Lakers obviously beat this Timberwolves team in game 1. They present a different set of challenges. And we know the Kings obviously swept the season series against the Lakers last year. They're going to look to even out this season, be 1-1 come Monday's game back here at Golden One Center against Chris Murray and the Portland Trail Blazers. That should be an easy one. So that's where I think we're going to end it today. Unfortunate defeat by the hands of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Saturday, you have the Los Angeles Lakers. But ladies and gentlemen, I promise you that this schedule lightens up here at some point very, very soon for the Sacramento Kings. After they play the Los Angeles Lakers, like I mentioned on Monday, it'll be the Portland Trail Blazers. Then following that game, it will be on Tuesday, a back-to-back in Utah against the Jazz that we saw in the preseason. That should be an easier game. So I'm hoping that the Kings, at the very least, after that Tuesday game, can be at least 500. They should realistically be 3-1. Here's where things get really easy. You have at Atlanta on Friday, November 1st, at Toronto Saturday, November 2nd, back-to-back. Monday, you play at Miami, and then you play versus the Raptors again. You play the Clippers Friday, November 8th here at Golden One Center. Then you play the Phoenix Suns, and then after that, the San Antonio Spurs. I feel like there's a lot of wins these first 11 games on the schedule. Of course, it's not how you want to start it, but I'm telling you, there's a real chance, even with the loss today, this Kings team, especially if they win on Saturday against the Lakers, there's a chance that this Kings team can start 7-4, 8-3 maybe. There's a lot of easy wins against some Eastern Conference opponents that I'm hoping this team can take advantage of. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't think I will not. No, I will not be going live after the Laker game on Saturday. I'm sorry. Saturday's my birthday. I will not be going live. I will be watching the game, and I will be celebrating regardless of a win or a loss from the Kings. But I will be back on Monday for that Blazer game right back here in Golden One Center. So be sure to check out our Sacktown Sports Kings post-game live stream Monday after the Kings take on the Blazers. And let's be honest, it's going to be after a win. We're going to light the beam on Monday, and things are going to start feeling right, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all have a fantastic night. I'm sorry it couldn't end how y'all wanted it to end. But nonetheless, I definitely think that this was a good showing for this team. I think we should go hit our heads to the pillows tonight feeling good about their performance. Y'all have a good one. Peace out.